Officially, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Market Watch Group Monday Market Kickoff. Happy morning. Happy Monday morning, Hope your weekend finished strong. My name is Scott. I'll be your host. Please remember that this subscription service is for education and illustrative purposes only. We don't ever give recommendations to buy or sell any security or financial product. Not brokers, not advisors, yada, yada. There's additional disclaimers with the trade alerts on the trade alert page and in the trade alert emails. If you ever wanted to read those, I know everyone loves a good disclaimer. Who doesn't? Today's agenda, opening futures and news. We were negative overnight. Now we're flat. So there's that. Right? Yeah? What's our economic calendar and our posture tell us? Our economic calendar tells us that we have Fed and expectations are in that there will be some verbiage specifically oriented around the new administration and their financial policies and what the Fed is going to be looking for in order to then determine its next stance. I think it's kind of saying, hey, we've taken a step back and don't really have a stance. That's I don't know. That's kind of what I think. Anyone want to weigh in? Put a comment in. I think they're a little bit reluctant and actually want to put that out there. Like, hey, we can't do anything until we see this trade war de-escalate. Because obviously tariffs have a huge propensity towards raising prices, and the Fed's number one job right now is to get inflation down. So those are interesting polar objectives. All right. So our posture dropped again. It's about the worst it's been in about 18 months, since October of 2023, when we dropped a similar fashion. And we also had a 10% correction at that time. And at that time, we marked our score, and it was like the bottom when our score actually hit negative, then like minus 0.5, barely negative, one time barely negative, and then we V'd, and then we took off. Someone asked, well, how was the market this time last year? And we went back and we were looking at it. It was like 6, 7, beautiful spring, beautiful, like basically from the time that market bottomed. We had a great November, great December, great January, great February, great April or March, and then it slowed down into April. So we had like this big 5-month run. And so do I think that could happen again? I feel like I've said that quite a bit. In fact, this is the picture I wanted to show. This is my 4 paths picture. I'm going to blow it up. Let's blow it up even further. This was, okay. Yes. This was what we were looking at yesterday. You can kind of see the color coding. A, B. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you. D is down here. So it's kind of like, what are we looking for? You'll notice that for most of these paths, I kind of drew it like, sideways. These two I drew kind of up at this upper end. I didn't really expect a gap up, and I don't think that we're going to get a gap up. So I feel like I feel pretty comfortable about that. Where's my drawing tools? I'm trying to stall. Try to stall and get to them at the same time, and it just didn't work. So kind of looking for red and blue in this area here, right? That's where I would think red and blue would be. Green is a little bit more of an inside open down here, and purple was down here, right? So that's kind of coming off of Friday's candle right here that we're orienting off of, right? So let me clear and minimize. We all know the agenda. Let's get into it. Let's just get some charts up and talk about it. We need to talk about charts. Let's get the SPY up here. Those are the charts real time. So as of right now, at the start, we're thinking, hey, this could be A or B. Why do we think that? Well, let's get... you can see the futures have rallied off the lows overnight. S&P minus 0.08, so flat. Dow minus 0.24. NASDAQ got to positive 0.04. Russell 0.17. Oil's up 1%. Gold is flat. What else do we know? Fed set to lay down a marker on Trump tariffs. Stock futures mixed as economic concerns grow. Sandy says, I don't see any reasoning behind Trump's actions. It's too extreme looking at it from the outside. And from the inside. Says Bob and Scott. Okay. What else? Retail sales rise less than expected amid economic worries. Now that's a interesting one. We talked about this a lot. Where we're like, you can't be like, oh, retail sales are down, and also be like, we want inflation to come down. If sales are strong, how does inflation come down? That's problematic, right? So if retail sales are marginally down or flat, that can still be tenable. So I don't think that's necessarily bad news in and of itself. New York State factory activity plunges by most in 2 years. I told you that's out. Let's go to the calendar. So the Empire State Manufacturing is a notoriously volatile survey. But that's a big drop. What else? Retail sales. We were expecting 0.3 minus autos. We got 0.3 minus autos. 0.6, we got 0.2. So it's growing, just not as fast. I actually look at that as positive. If we could have sales just marginally positive, where it's just like, hey, they're growing ever so slightly, where it's like it's predictable. Anyway, I don't know. That's me. Tomorrow, the Fed meeting starts off. We have some real estate reports, industrial production capacity utilization, and then on Friday. I'm going to skip a few days. Wednesday, nothing but Fed. We just sit and wait on pins and needles for the Fed to announce. Are we waiting for the 2 o'clock interest rate decision? No, there's no expectation whatsoever that they're going to cut rates. We're waiting for the conference where they say, here's what we're seeing, and that's where they're looking for that change. The fear and greed index has dropped down to extreme fear. It's dropping. I wonder if you have does that have a historical, like they are like they mark when it started to turn, and I'd be interested to see. Friday, nothing scheduled. Thursday, we have jobless claims. Again, everyone got all worked up when this thing shot to 250 for like 1 week. It was like 245. It's like, come on, relax, everybody. Relax. The Philly manufacturing is supposed to drop as well. Okay. So again, let me get back here. Let me get down to a better chart. Let's get this down and this down and you down. Questions, comments, concerns. What do you guys think? We are set to open it basically right here, right in this vein, which is kind of right there. I guess I didn't draw this. Right where I would think the red was coming out. So then what? Well, if now remember what we have. Remember what we have. Market's opening here in just a few seconds. From here to here, that is and there's our open. That is an 18-day window. And in that 18 days, we had 4 buying days. And none of those 4 buying days up until now, this is the question, were followed by a second buying day. None of them. Immediately retreated. This 18 days had 14 above average volume days, the majority of which were selling days. 9, let's see. 9, 1, and 4. Huge amount of selling days. So and we got a full 10% drop. So that's just kind of setting context for like what's going on in this market right now and what do we think is going to happen today. So Sandy said cautiously optimistic, ? Always. Tradably cautiously optimistic? Well, that's a horse of a different color. So for me, it's really going to boil down to I'm going to kind of come across the high of Friday. And then if we're underneath it, I'm kind of feeling it's a no. If we're barely above it, I'm feeling like, and you might not see it, but it's yellow. I'm trying to be clever with like maybe. And then if we can get to, like this point, there's where we're saying, hey, you know what? If I end up with that green candle that looks like this, that's the second day in a row. Maybe I put that trade on. Right? You can kind of see what we're looking at. We're flirting with it right now. The high of yesterday, 563.83. We're at 563.36. And I probably wouldn't do it until after the mid-morning, shuffle. I want to see confirmation. El Jago says feeling like a wait and see week. I agree. I mean, there's a lot of wanting to see, and I'm certainly not going to be like, hey, look, we just like, if you watch, we're getting close right now. I'm not going to be like, okay, I'm in. We're 2 minutes in. I'm not going to do anything ever until I see it. Bam. Now you can see the buyers are smashing in a little bit here, right? Let's go look. Buyers are coming in. We're up 0.25%. It's still the opening range, right? So it looks like it wants to maybe be a buy day. And if it holds on to that in the second half of the day, and this is pre-planned. We talked about this yesterday, right? We talked about this yesterday. In fact, that's a part of this. That if we got something that was B or C that would ended up giving us these bullish day on this first day, we're thinking that either it's going to make a small move up. That's a terrible color. Let's go red. We think it's either going to make a small move up and then start to roll over And that's going to be a little tougher because it's like, do we take some profit? Do we still put some bearish trades on? That's B. Or we might get a V. Things might be just like all of a sudden some good news comes, Fed says something, Trump says something, bam, rally. And if that's the case, well, then we want to have maybe a trade or two that we're thinking, this is what I want to put on for that type of a continuation run. So let's go find that. Yeah, but 4 minutes in, I don't think, especially now for those of you who weren't here, quick peek at it. I mean, it's really been nasty this last little bit. We were holding, fighting, end of January, end of February, all through January, actually. All through January. It's just kind of fighting. The sellers didn't really ever do that much. You can see that in the chart. Not on a 5-minute chart, but on a 6-month chart. You certainly can. All here, you can see we dipped, but we never dipped that far. This dip never went more than about 4%. We popped again. Big, right? There was no big, so we look at this. We're like, hey, that's actually quite a significant push. Which, as a result, when we dropped, led to trades being put on that worked. We had profitable trades through this bullish window, if you remember. Right? That was not that bad. We were still fine. We were still at 4. Everything was okay. Wasn't great. We were still a little rocked from back in this little area in here. But everything was still okay. And then we hit February. And it was literally like, here's the 10th. This was like around this 14th or so that really, and when you look at our posture, whoops, where did you go, posture? That was it. That was the next one. Bang. Point. We dropped again and again and again and again. Yeah. So it's not, it's in a spot where, if we're moving towards a bear market, obviously this is going to dip into the negative territory, right? But just a real quick trip in my Wayback Machine as we venture back. There was this time last year, March and April of last year, 7s and high 6s. Yeah, you wish. I wish. The last time was back here in late October. And here's what it looked like. So if we, just so we know, hey, what would I expect to then say, I want to move in a little bit more aggressively, right? Because if you look at this market back in that period of time, and then we're going to go to our watch list, I think it's important to orient ourselves. 2 years. That was back here, but I want you to recognize, end of October, that was the bottom. There's the V that we say, hey, that V can show up. So could that V show up here? And again, when I say V, I don't think back to this level. I think maybe like into this range, you got a V. Like that's what we would be thinking, hey, that would be pretty significant. And it took us about 2 weeks to really get our score. So by the time that V completed, we were ready to go for this entire run. Look at that beautiful run. Could that happen again? Absolutely. Why not? Why not? Are we expecting it? No, not until we see something like that. And then we would maybe be, in the meantime, here we are, right? Here we are. Market's moving well enough that if this is what it looks like, that's the second day. Now, we've seen this before. I want you to recognize this looked very similar, right? At one point in the day. It basically started a little higher and it looked like this at one point in the day. And then by the end of the day, it was down here. So let's never, ever make assumptions early in the day. Obviously, we haven't even gotten through the opening range of 20 minutes. El Jago says, feel like a wait and see week. Yeah, 100%, right? Okay. All right, let's go to the watch list. Call me, good to see you. Never late. Right on time for you. Right on time. I used to do a trading room for a service, and this guy'd be like, man, you start like 3 minutes late every day. I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I start right on time. This meeting starts when I start it, which is right on time. Okay. Let's go. Let's hit the watch lists. We have a bull list and a bear list. If you didn't see it this morning or yesterday. So cautiously optimistic means that if this can hold, we might put on some bulls from the bull list, which would include things like, let me get to a better chart, AEE, right? Things that would start giving us Heiken Ashies that can let us tighten stops. It's not like when the market changes, it's not just like, hey, am I so sure I'm going to be right? No. Do I have a signal that allows me to kind of move my risk and either catch it or not? There's a lot of different questions that we want to be thinking about. So when I look at Apple is on the bear list. Does that look strong to me? It looks like a dead cat bounce, like a bear flag. Like if the buyers push this up and they, let's say, get it even a little higher still, let's say they get it up into this 220 mark and then it starts to roll over, I'm going to go back to a 1 year chart to see like, hey, is there an old support level down here that I'm going to be looking for? Let's do it actually, right? So one of the things we've been saying during this bearish drop is, yes, I'd be willing to be bearish, but I don't want to be bearish, here or here. I mean, although you could have been, it's just, you never know is the whole point, right? That's the whole point of, it's hard to chase. We said we're waiting for an upswing. When the buyers fail, then we jump in the next round. Yeah, look at that. There's the breakout. So I take that halfway, which happens to go right around that low, which happens to be right around 200. Okay. Noted. AbbVie is new. Setting up. Someone gave me I'm so bad with like remembering anything, but someone from the group, you can take credit with a bow now. Adding to our pharmaceutical perspective in healthcare. Thank you, kind citizen. Not ready yet, though, but it's getting close. AEE, like I said, that's on my bull list. Apple's on my bear list. Amazon's not on either list. I'm not interested in the consolidators. That to me looks like it's just trying to figure out its way. When I look at Apple, I think that's a drop. And I'm looking for flags, right? Flags. Baba. What list is Baba on? That's on the bullish list. What kind of candle does it have? It's got these kinds of candles. Bank of America. What list is that on? That's on my bearish list. If we break this low, what's next? Ooh, 36-ish, like somewhere down here. Yeah, I don't think that's going to hold up very well. It's got some potential there to drop some further. You're like, it's not that far from where we were just last year, right? That's on my bear list. Why? Because the sellers did this with this, and the buyers are doing this with this. Right? I hope that brings a nice, easy visual to connect why we think the sellers still own this. If you're new and you're like, no, say it. I'll go through it again. I want to connect some of these dots. Same thing here, right? So on my bearish list, new low, struggling to get high. I mean, that's always a challenge, struggling to get high or higher at least. BX, no. BX is, I didn't put it on the bear list, but I would. That would be one. Actually, I could. I mean, it's just financials. I think I had BAC, FHN, FI, MS. Certainly put on BX. Looks bearish to me. Caterpillar. Caterpillar's on my bullish list. And you're like, Scott, they look so similar. I know it seems that way, but it's like, here's this consolidation. Just look to see, are there any like big bull moves? Look for things like that. That's different. From here down, you didn't see anything but little baby candles that tried for a day. Oh, we're buyers. Look at us. And then this keeps on going. Until then, when you got that, you were like, wait, that's just different. 3 days, big smashing volume, and then you're like, oh, and then the sellers came in, and what did they do? They couldn't get it back down. So now we have this higher low. And I'm thinking, does this move into maybe a Heikin-Ashi candle? Maybe at the end of the day, and then you put a tight stop, and you're like, hey, if this thing rallies, which we saw one rally from Fastenal just not too long ago, right? There you go. Thoughts? Does that make sense why I look at that one differently? It's so subtle, I know. I get it. If you're new to charts, you're like, that doesn't make sense, Scott. Those are the same thing. Everything's going down. But I hope you can kind of find like where's that supply and demand shift? We want it to be subtle though, right? We want it to be like, if it just stood out like a spotlight, then how useful is that analysis? If you think about it. CIN. Let me get out of these candles. I love Heikin-Ashi, but I'm gonna looks like agreed, Tommy. CIN. I'm not really looking flag or anything. This is not really a flag. It's just in a consolidation. That's the other thing is the flag is kind of like boom, 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 boom. We're not really seeing that. We're just seeing this consolidation. So we're just sort of watching some of these. Not everything is a potential trade, right? You're a trader, not a hammer. So everything you see shouldn't be a nail. Let's relax and let's be discriminate. CLS. Maybe you see this flaggy. You see this coming up. Flaggish. I don't know, whichever adjective of flag you want to use. I could see that. I would consider something like that. Also, I mind this overbought stochastics pinching. Something like this drops. Yeah, I think this could be, maybe it's just a $60, $70 stock at best. Maybe it belongs back in this range back down here. Right? And it wants to get there quickly, possibly. That last stock, give me a symbol because I don't ever know where that came from. Had just the opposite for why you thought it was bullish. Yeah, Steven, give me the symbol so I know which one. You mean CIN? That had high bullers? I don't. High volume buyers? Which one had high volume buyers? I'm not seeing any high volume buyers. Caterpillar? Tell me which one. Okay, I'm going to move on. Make sure you throw a symbol on it so I know, because I never know when I'm going to look up and see. I might be 2 stocks past and not know where you're at. CME. Looks bullish, but I don't really see any kind of an entry there, right? It's this is not very helpful. This is not very helpful. It's bullish. It's just not really like nothing we can sink our teeth into. It seems. Cisco. Now, Cisco's a tough one. I actually put it on the bear list. When I had been thinking, hey, would I be willing to trade off the 100? I mean, the 100's kind of in that neutral zone. If I'm bullish, I'd rather it has held the 50. If it's dropped all the way to the 200, I'm likely not going to be bullish. So that 100 level kind of gives it a little bit of a, state of limbo to some extent, and it becomes trader's discretion. Why did I think this one? Because remember what I'm looking for is I'm looking for an acceleration of sellers. So I'm looking for something like this. And then you can see the next thing we have is that possible flag setting up. Right? Okay, that's why. That's why. So if this flag doesn't get above here and then it rolls over, then I think, hey, this could be making a run to test the 200 or at least back to this level, 55-ish, somewhere by, it could drop still pretty good. We'll see. Delta's on the bearish list because it's flagging bearishly. Nothing. Diamonds looks bearish too. Actually, the Dow looks bearish. Duke Energy looks bullish. It's pushing higher. It's on my bullish. Fastenal's on my bullish. Oh, look at that. Fastenal. That would be one I would maybe take at the end of the day to see if we can make a run up there. That's on the bull list. This is on the bear list. Struggling to get higher. Then what? Right? FI is on the bear list. Same thing. Same thing. That's not on a list. Fox. Closer to the bull list than not, but actually I am now kind of thinking it looks a little bit downside heavy. GE Vernova's on the bear list. Ooh, but look at that one trying to pop. Gilead's on the bull list. That looks like it could be setting up for a bullish trade, a nice bullish bounce coming out of this. Would it be a good time to day trade? We've lost some of our VIX, so that we haven't had great ranges or trends, but I would say it's better now. Maybe day to swing, day to position, where your trades may last not necessarily like 30 to 40 minutes, but maybe like 3 to 5 hours, and you might carry it overnight, something like that. I'd be flexible. I'd be open to whatever might work. Google down. Goldman's on my bear list. Whoops. Goldman Hood. I would put that on. I didn't put it on because I have a lot of financials already. Obviously, you can see financials has a good amount of bearishness to it right now. HTHT, nothing. Sideways. Howmet, nothing. IBIT, I'm still a little bearish on that one. IBM, nothing. ICE, bullish. You can see that was the one we looked at on Friday that we liked, but just didn't have enough bullishness in this to want to put that on. Now, can we look at this as a continuation trade? Yes. Yes is the answer. That's a nice moment. Even then, we said there's a bit of a shadow. Nice momentum candle. So, yes. It's a little more conservative, but then again, so are we. Flagging bearishly. KMB looks like it's setting up. We should have a nice setup forming. Coca-Cola starting to bounce, possibly. So, if you're looking for a defensive trade, any of the Ks, KMB, KO, KR. MasterCard is a no for me. Meta is a no for me. They're not on the bearish list, though. They're just a no. That's on the bear list for me. If that tries to move and fails, Microsoft is a no. Netflix is a nothing. Not on my list. Come on, baby. Keep on chugging. I took a small loss on half. The rest of the trade is more than made up for that now. Okay, right? And I know a number of you didn't take that small loss that I did. I had a specific reason for why I did. Literally, it was not hardly at all below break even. And one of the reasons is because I felt like I had over-positioned the trade in the first place. So I was like, oh, I'll take advantage of this opportunity. Looks great now. NVIDIA, no, overextended. PLTR, no, I'm waiting for those to pull back. PM, yes. I think PM would be a valid signal today unless it gives back more. Roblox is on my bear list. Reddit's on my bear list. RTX is on my bull list. Ooh, that may be a little too late now. SE on my bull list. That's setting up. Toast is trying. TPR is nothing. Tesla is on my bear list, and that looks like it may be getting close to rolling over again. TSM is down. Twilio, no. Here is Visa. Visa is looking increasingly bearish. Here's the day's VIX. It's down, but not very much. We're still set up for a higher low. Walmart to me looks like a bear flag. I'm very close to putting that on my bear list. Okay. Lastly, this week's trading plan section, we are back to number 1. So if you're new, let's do it. We're all working on it together. If you've done one pass, you've defined. Now it's time to refine. If you've done 2 passes and have refined, it's time to polish. If you've polished, it's time to review and just see if anything needs to change based on market conditions or any trading progress. For me, 3 bullets. 3 bullets for strengths, 3 bullets for weaknesses, 1 paragraph apiece for commitment and discipline, 1 for mission statement, 1 for vision statement. Let's get those trading plans worked on. I will be back this evening for a full hour for just a chit-chat Q&A session, much less formal. Bring your trading plans. Bring your questions. Let's set up a bearish trade maybe. I don't know. We'll figure something out. It's good to see everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you later this afternoon. If not, this evening. If not today, I'll see you tomorrow. As always, happy trading.